Business does over 100 million a year in revenue.
I bring home over $1 million a year.
All online?
All online.
We do about $500,000 every single month.
How much do I make? This is a weird question.
Today we're at an e-commerce conference asking online millionaires how they got rich. Are you comfortable sharing how much you or your businesses make?
We spend like $60 million a year on Amazon.
Funny you asked. I actually just sold my company last year called Stubana. I also one of the early co-founders of the Prosper Show, which we sold I think back in 2018. Still have an e-commerce business today, and I just launched Prophecy. So it's kind of an interesting question where I just sold my company and now I'm just started something new.
How did that feel?
It felt like freedom. Been running this software company for 7 years. I had a lot of family and friends invested in it to give them a beautiful exit. It's a great thing.
How did you make your first dollar online?
Finding the right product, literally borrowing money to buy 20 of it and selling it on Amazon. So Amazon, at least at the time, was the easiest way to launch anything.
I made my first dollar online actually doing Shopify dropshipping. It honestly didn't work that great. I lost money overall.
I sold socks. I wouldn't even say I made $1. I made revenue, but it wasn't profitable. Dropshipping, it made sense because you don't have to invest upfront at the end of the day. Little risks. There's a lot of free courses on Udemy that you can watch, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I did to build my first site.
I'll never forget, we launched a new giftable product, sat around with a bottle of champagne, and 3 hours after launch, we sold our first one and we popped the bottle and it was great. Yeah, I'll never forget it.
That's awesome. How was that feeling?
Unbelievable. I still think about that day as like a highlight. We had a party, we just celebrated. It was unbelievable. And then the sales kept coming and we're like, oh my God, what have we done?
What were you doing before being your own boss?
I was actually bartending.
What did you do to make the switch?
I got started as an intern at a digital media company that was really focusing on Amazon advertising. It was definitely a quick growing startup. I leveraged that position to connect with a ton of people, start building relationships in the space, and then here we are.
So connections and networking, at least at the beginning, was one of the drivers to what took you to this point here.
100%.
I'm a molecular biologist my whole life. Dave is a pilot. We had no experience in e-commerce or Amazon, but we started learning, found some new products and launched those a few months later, and those took off. And we sold it 2 years later, yeah.
I was working a 9-to-5 job as a construction worker. I was a superintendent every single day, wake up 7 in the morning, get home at 6 at night, just grinding.
I was still in high school.
High school?
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
I did go to college, worked corporate for 3.5 years, doing recruiting and staffing sales. I was making like $200,000 a year. Started my Amazon business because I wasn't fulfilled. COVID blew up my business, quit and went to the moon.
In 2009, I was on Wall Street and I just got laid off from my job. I had my box with me outside of the Wall Street firm and my father picks me up. He drives me to the Upper West Side of New York. My apartment was next to a school. And so these kids were just getting out of school with their lunch boxes. And my father said, Chad, those kids are free and so are you. And that touched my heart. He essentially was like, hey, this is a whole new beautiful opening for you. Like maximize your potential and figure something else that you love. Because I really didn't like what I was working on.
What is a tip for someone who is at a job that they hate?
Jump. Don't be afraid. You truly just need to embrace the fact that, hey, there's so much more to life and business makes up more time than anything else we do other than sleep potentially. So it's like if you're spending 50% of your time at a place that you hate, that's really draining and gonna ruin your life.
So I think tactically, like reading 4-Hour Workweek changed my life. Coming into yourself, like having like an eat, pray, love moment where you like take a step back from life and say, is this what I want? At least now in my 30s, time is more valuable than anything.
I just heard someone said,
People quit leaders, not companies.
100%.
You don't pick your job, you pick your boss. I think if you pick the right boss, it's gonna elevate you and like see you through in your career. You'll be a far greater contributor in the organization. So make sure that they're gonna open up the world to you and see you develop and see you grow.
So I was working fully for a nonprofit and making no money. I went from that to starting my own business.
any advice that you would give your younger self at that point?
Everything that was scary then turned out to be like Mickey Mouse later on. If I could tell my younger self, enjoy it, have certainty, don't react, don't run to instant gratification.
I have shiny object syndrome, and so I was trying so many different ventures. One thing would be successful, and then I'm like, oh, well, I want to try this. And I would just kind of scatterbrained, and it wasn't until I just went 100% all into Amazon that things really started to grow. A lot of people are like, oh, this is a scam, or oh, this doesn't work. The reality is they didn't even spend enough time to actually make it work. They tried too many things, and they don't focus on one thing.
The reason that I'm making this video is I have friends who work in corporate who are very smart, educated, but they're not satisfied and they're trying to make their own money. What do you say to those people, realistically?
So I would go to my wife and be like, tell me all the problems that you have in the house that you wish was different. She's gonna make a list of 30 of them. You're gonna find that 28 of them have already been solved. The 2 that haven't been solved, I try to make a product around. The super shopper and the irrational shopper usually are moms. You'll buy anything for your kids. You won't often buy it for yourself. Even that brand Manscaped, they make the hair grooming product for men. The women are buying it, from what I heard. It's not the men.
I would say the first thing to do is is to just consume as much content as possible and learn as much as possible. I think there's a lot more free content on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on social, and there's a lot of people you can connect with that will teach you more than you could ever know.
Don't be afraid to pay for knowledge. There's people who have been there before and can help you and guide you along the way.
Find where the super shopper is, find where the problem is, and you build around that.
And how do you validate it?
Actually, one of my friends in the group said that the way he validates a product launch is he'll make the product quickly. He'll sell it for super, super cheap, even at a loss. And he said if people don't even buy it then why will they buy it at a higher price? So he actually validates products by making it great and selling it super cheap in the beginning to see if fish are biting. Bring like 20, 30 friends to your house, do like a taste testing or focus group. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? But be quick to market, because a lot of people spend like 6 months on their logo, making sure that the color looks nice and buying hats and pencils and stuff, when in reality you need to start selling, failing, learning, adapting, adjusting, and just keep moving forward.
Don't get bogged down by analysis paralysis. Don't do product research for 3 years. Just get in the game, get your feet wet. You're gonna make mistakes. Get out and make those mistakes so you can learn and move on. Get selling.
Well, first of all, it's never been easier to start making your own money. The question is like, what's your zone of genius? What are you really, really good at? And what I've seen as a business owner through COVID is that people are moving away from like full-time opportunities into fractional work and taking their passion and using that in a way where they're bringing on multiple different clients and having fun with the work that they're providing. You can do videos, you can do marketing work from anywhere in the world. Double down on like what you really love doing versus just the ho-hum of whatever the corporation's giving you.
How do you figure out what your zone of genius is?
Document your day and figure out what your bucket list is, like things that light you up, and then have a bucket list. Trying to figure out how you can double down on things you love.
I'm a big fan of Amazon for the main reason that you don't need to put a ton of time per se into it, especially when you're starting to sell actually. So it makes sense to be able to juggle that while working a corporate job. Now with that said, I am a firm believer that Amazon, you can learn so many fundamental skills that you can take into any other business. So I'm not the end all be all Amazon guy. I've found a lot of passion in helping people through my coaching business now and building systems and structures for that, but I wouldn't have been able to do that with Amazon. So I think Amazon's a great stepping stone. I don't think you need to be passionate about Amazon. I think you'll find passion when you start waking up to like thousands of dollars of sales.
How much money did you start with?
$10,000 Canadian.
What tools do you use for task management, goal setting, and SOPs?
Slack, WhatsApp, Google Calendar, and Zoom.
Have you ever heard of Notion?
Yes, I have.
I actually have.
Yes, I love Notion. That's actually one of our go-to resources. Primarily due to the usability and the convenience, we use it as a full company wiki. Everything we do is built into Notion. It's just incredibly easy to navigate.
Notion is the sponsor of this video.
Is it really?
Notion is an excellent tool for team collaboration or for yourself. You can take notes, manage tasks, set goals.
Set goals every single day.
That's what I'm all about.
You have me sold. I need to get on Notion.
I'm gonna sign up.
You guys better go to the link down below and get a free membership with Notion.
Sign up for free using the link in the description below. Thank you, Notion.
Thank you, Notion.
What made you successful?
I would say number one, having a spiritual practice was a game changer for me. I studied Kabbalah, which is universal spiritual wisdom. Number two, surrounding myself constantly with people who are in my world but do something better than I do. The other thing I make sure is 20% of my time always having free time. Free time to talk to the universe, be creative, brainstorm. Because if you're burned out, subconsciously you're going to sabotage everything you do. You're always reacting to stuff and you're always going to shrink. You're going to shrink and shrivel.
Probably identifying as being poor.
What was that?
Essentially, I grew up poor. That gave me a certain amount of discipline and like anxiety, but also grit that's like propelled me forward to want to never be in that situation again.
Interesting, because I hear people say get out of a poor mindset.
I'm not saying that I should forever be identifying as poor, but I'm just telling you that that's like a big contributor to my success, is knowing what I've come from and knowing that it's propelling me away from that. And
It's pretty grounding too.
yeah, it's very grounding. It's very humbling. I've had amazing success, and my wife would say, Chad, like, why are you always worrying about money? And I'm like, it's just what I grew up with, and maybe that's my Achilles heel.
So are you trying to keep that?
No, I think it's something that I'm constantly working on. How do I come back to some level of peacefulness around that and tranquility?
Incredibly driven, not afraid to fail. When you go out on your own, there's no one to support you when you have the downsides. And when you're in a traditional company, you typically don't hear about all the bad things that happen, but when you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur, you carry that weight by yourself. But you also realize that the highs are so high that it's completely worth it, and that life's a roller coaster, so you just figure it out and you go with it. Thank you for having me. And cut. In scene.